Hi, welcome to Radio 4's Consumer Programme. Today, as higher energy prices kick in, we'll be talking about the cost of living and possible ways to save. New research suggests more people are spreading their spending with no interest buy now, pay later services. Meal deals are popular with workers trying to keep their food bills down.
I normally get, eggs. It has to be eggs. And normally a Vimto drink and some kind of pasta or a sandwich.
Asda, Greggs and Pret have just introduced their own meal deals. We'll be looking at how they compare. And might all this gloom be leading us to desserts subtle for bold interiors?
We've got an orange fridge, a green dishwasher, a yellow bin, pink tiles, bright yellow walls. I like colour. I love colour.
If you'd like to share your thoughts with us, email us please, you and yours at bbc.co.uk. Our text number is 84844. Changes that start from today will add to bills. The price of energy rises by £35 a year for the typical household. A new packaging tax kicks in, making companies that create packaging pay new fees to cover the cost of recycling it. And some companies are warning that those costs will be passed on to consumers. There is also a ban from today on special offers that encourage us to buy more junk food. We're going to look at those elements in more detail and get some tips about possible ways to spend less. But first, let's hear from someone managing what feels like a shrinking budget. Jenny Holden lives in the West Midlands with her husband and two teenage sons. Jenny and her husband both work. Jenny runs a very small PR company. So, Jenny, let's start with food then. In your house, how do you try to keep track of what is going out on food?
I'm quite diligent in that every Sunday I sit down with cookery books and plan meals for the week ahead. And then I look at all of the ingredients that I need and I buy what I need. And I try not to deviate too much because I think if I plan, I can maximise, the money that I have allocated for shopping. And I think making my own meals, I think I can stretch them a little bit further rather than pre-packaged meals or ready meals.
What have you noticed about the amount going out now on food?
Well, because I plan every week, I track my expenses like I do for my own business. So I've seen them go up, looking back at the last, say, 6 weeks, they've gone up by about 10, 15, 20 pounds. And I'm not really deviating too much from the meals that I'm planning. It's always lasagnas or spaghetti or, nothing too extravagant.
So what, you're seeing that price rise of 10, 20 pounds, what, a month or a week?
Well, if I track back over 6 weeks, I've looked at today, yes.
A week?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
The price of energy is also rising again from today. It's not a huge rise. On a typical bill, it would be an extra £35 a year. But obviously people who use more than a typical amount will pay more. How have you coped with that? Because this small rise, it's on top of a lot of much bigger rises, isn't it, starting at the end of 2022?
Absolutely. Having two teenage boys that haven't quite grasped the concept of energy bills and leave lights on everywhere. I'm like a woman obsessed going around our house, turning lights off, making sure that we have got the thermostat down. We're not putting the fire on just yet. We're trying to hold out. Obviously, it's quite mild this week, but at night when we sit down and watch the TV for a bit, it's let's get an extra blanket, let's put socks on and,
So
hot drinks.
You're cutting right back. Are you managing to pay your bills?
We are managing to pay, but at the end of the month, it's really, really tight. And in an age where we're seeing, you've got to invest in an ISA here and there. At the moment, we haven't got that. And, we're both at the height of our careers. Yes, I've got a small PR consultancy, but it's a healthy business. But I still don't want to pay myself over and above what I need to pay myself.
Just sit down together, you and your husband, then, and try to work out what your priorities are, what you'll do without. You've talked about doing without having the heating on and so on. Do you still have a holiday? Do you ever eat out as a family?
We do. We have. We don't have lavish holidays, UK or Spain, just to get away because you do only live once. We don't want to compromise, our family life, our memories. So we do go on holiday. We don't go all inclusive. We don't go long haul. The boys have never been, on a long haul holiday. But we don't tend to go out as a family at meal times. No, we eat in, and we do plan. My husband and I sit down every Sunday. It's something actually that we've recently started to do just a month ago. In that we look at what's coming up over the next months, and then we forward plan 6 months as well. So we can see when car insurance is due, tax, etc. Because previously we didn't, but I think because we've seen the food bills go up and now energy, we are having to have like a 10-minute check-in every Sunday, which sounds really boring, but it helps us just to get clarity on expenses.
The other thing I suppose that plays into all this is the cost of credit is high, isn't it? If you go into your overdraft or you end up with a balance on your credit card that you can't pay off all in one go. In the past, when people have felt the squeeze, the cost of borrowing was lower.
Yes, we have got a credit card. We have now paid it off, but we have also paid the price in that for a couple of months we couldn't pay. And just looking at the interest has been horrendous. And I think that was a deciding factor for us to sit down on a Sunday morning and say, we're not going to do that again. We're going to cut up our credit cards. And if we can't afford something, we're not going to buy it.
Another thing that happens today in England is that supermarkets, bigger high street shops and online retailers, they can no longer offer multi-buy promotions on unhealthy food and drink. And that has been under consideration for years, and it was put off because of the cost of living crisis. It finally starts today. You're trying to feed a couple of teenagers. Will that affect you at all, or is it not the kind of food you buy?
I'm not saying we've never done that. I've seen the deals in various supermarkets, but I think because I'm now relying on, slow cooker, batch cooking, I'm really trying hard not to go for those deals because I don't think I think you want to hide into nothing. I still don't. I don't believe them.
Jenny Holden, thanks so much for coming on and sharing all that detail with us. We really appreciate it. Well, food prices have been rising steadily for the past year, faster than general inflation. You'll have noticed that at the checkout. But prices for some items in amongst it all have really soared. So beef, for example, price risen by almost a quarter, butter by almost a fifth. The price of chocolate, coffee and milk has also shot up. Andrew Keeble is the founder and managing director of the Heck Food Company. It employs 130 people making sausages and other food at a factory in Beedale in North Yorkshire. Andrew, hi, and thank you for coming on. So tell us then, what has been happening with the retail price of the food that you are producing this past year?
Well, we've seen a huge cost inflation across most meat proteins for a number of different reasons. And some of it is national insurance, some of it's wages. The latest one we're getting, of course, is the plastic tax, which is out today. But in general, food across the board, inputs. As Jenny was saying there, just for her household, electric's gone up significantly. She's getting an extra £1,000 a year extra cost on her food bill, and this is not going to stop it. I don't think. I think food inflation is forecast to be 5.7% this year, which is very high.
So what did you? Sorry, just to go back to my question. Heck, how much did you put your prices up by?
We haven't. So our price has been, so we've absorbed all those costs really in there. What we've done is we've invested significantly in automation, because we're expanding our business, but we're looking to keep the same headcount, but expand our production headroom, if you like, through further automation. So we also can charge for food, but you can't charge for inefficiency. So it's becoming more and more efficient.
The argument with what you call the plastic tax, the producers having to pay the full cost for recycling, is that it will encourage producers to use less packaging, and that it will be a win-win, that eventually these products will all be cheaper because some of them are so overpackaged.
Yes, some are. We've been looking at packaging for years, but I think particularly on this tax, because it's done on weight, ours is relatively light. So if you're producing something in glass, you'd be getting a huge thumping bill. So I think it's a poorly thought out tax because it is done on weight. So all of our packaging is already 90% recycled, and it can be recycled again with the exception of the top seal film.
But it'd be better to use less because it cannot be recycled indefinitely. Certainly plastic most definitely can't. Can I ask you about shrinkflation? Because you said that the price of your products hasn't risen, but has the weight gone down?
No, it hasn't. No, we've kept our weights all the same. We take a long-term view, and I think people do sometimes tar supermarkets with sort of a bad label. They're in the same situation as all of us, because they're in a price war with each other, and everyone is trying to keep prices down for the end consumer. But I think
then if you're sorry to interrupt, if you are the model, you have done, I guess, what politicians hoped you would do. You have absorbed it. You've absorbed the cost as a business. It hasn't been passed on to us.
That's right, but I think there comes a point, because everyone has to make profit, right? You need a margin, and I'm not going to say it's the straw that broke the camel's back, because we're doing well, but it's just another one. You think, hold on, so this plastic tax is going to cost us around 3p a packet. If it's put in, so if you look at a packet of 400 gram sausage on the shelf, it's going to cost us about 3p in tax for that packet to go out.
OK, well, thanks so much for coming on and explaining that to us. That was Andrew Keeble, who is the founder of Heck. Well, if we can turn now to energy. Gas and electricity prices go up today in England, Scotland and Wales, as I said. If you're on a variable tariff, your bill will rise by around 2%. It adds £35 a year to the typical bill. As I said, Coletta Smith is the BBC's cost of living correspondent. She's sitting alongside me here in Salford. So, Coletta, bills are going to rise for households who are on a variable tariff, and that is the vast majority of us. Is now a good time to switch to a fixed deal?
Yeah, that's the question that I get asked most often at the moment. Is now the moment? And what's interesting in these stats is that lots of people have done it. So actually, when you look at the figures from the regulator, they say about a third of households are now on a fixed deal. And in answer to your question, it's because it actually is a good idea at the moment. For most households, it's definitely worth looking at. So find out what deals are available to you, work out if you could save. Both the regulator and different comparison sites are saying you can save up to £200 a year compared to that standard variable tariff at the moment.
And for those who've never done it, because there are millions of households who've never ever done it, it doesn't mean that your supply is cut off or anything. It is easy. You fill in the form online and hey presto, you've got a new supply. It should be smooth.
It's a smooth process. Nothing happens in between. The transfer can happen very, very quickly. And if you go to a comparison site, they can sort of walk you through that whole process. And for a lot of people, it's not just about saving money, but it's also about knowing how much you're going to be paying. So you're going to fix for a certain amount of time, whether that's a year or whether that's 18 months. And you'll know within that period exactly how much you'll be paying. And if, like we've been hearing from Jenny, you're on a tight budget, that is equally as valuable as any money saving at the end of it.
And the predictions are that prices, nobody knows, but the predictions are that prices probably will rise or stay the same. So you won't lose by fixing. That is the prediction.
The current forecast is that they may fall slightly again in January, but probably go up again after that. It's really hard to tell. And because prices change every 3 months, it's really difficult to sort of predict that. But the likelihood is prices are going to stay in or around this level for the foreseeable anyway.
What help is there for people who can't meet their bills or who struggle to meet their bills?
The big change this year is the warm homes discount. So that was available to a small number of people over the last couple of years, but the government has just extended the criteria. So anybody on universal credit can get the warm homes discount. And in fact, that should happen automatically for homes in England and Wales. That's £150 that effectively turns up as credit on your energy account. So it doesn't go into your bank account, it goes into your energy account. In Scotland, check with your supplier as to whether you receive that automatically or whether they've got hold of that. There are also a lot of other bursaries and grants for people who are struggling. Contact your local council, different charities, but also your own supplier may well have a bursary or a grant available if you're struggling to pay. So there is quite a lot of help available this year.
The winter fuel allowance was taken away, wasn't it? Then reinstated by Labour. for some people. So tell us who will get it.
Well, about 9 million pensioners lost it last year, and about 8 million of them will get it back again this year. So actually,
that's good.
It's a huge number. It's anybody who is on an income that is less than £35,000 a year. So
Pension income.
exactly. If you're a pensioner and
you're
your
working.
total income as a pensioner is less than £35,000, then you'll receive it. If it's above that, you may well receive it, and it will be taken back in tax over that period. So for most households, like I say, if you lost it, the likelihood is you'll get it back. If you live in a couple and one of you receives more than £35,000, you should get half the entitlement for your household if one of you still earns less than £35,000 a year as an individual for your income. So there's quite a lot of different sort of circumstances around it to check out, but the likelihood is that if you earn less than £35,000, you will receive it again. You will get a letter in October or November telling you if you're getting it back or not. And that's the only information you should receive about it, because there are so many scams at the moment, so many texts saying, click here, apply here, fill in all your details here and you'll get your winter fuel payment. And I can't say enough, don't fall for the scam. If anything is asking you to put in details or apply for the winter fuel payment to be given back, it's a scam. Don't do it. Tell all your friends and neighbours.
So what you're saying is that everyone over state pension age should get a letter this month.
Or next month,
or next
October
month,
or November.
which will tell them whether or not they're being given it this year.
Exactly, yes. So wait for that letter. If you're unclear, wait for the letter, and then hopefully the money should drop into your account, within weeks after receiving that letter.
Because I noticed that you can also go online and opt out of it if you know you're not entitled to it and you don't want to worry about having to declare it on some kind of tax return.
Yes, so if you earn more than £35,000 a year, if you know
Yeah.
that already, then, or if you just don't want it, which some pensioners did previously, they decided to opt out and, hope that the money would go to those more in need. You can opt out by going to the DWP website and finding that information. But if you do receive it, then it will be clawed back in tax if you earn more than £35,000.
Coletta Smith, the BBC's cost of living correspondent. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you. This is You and Yours, Radio 4's consumer programme. It's 21 minutes past 12 now. Greige, a mixture of grey and beige, is often described as the perfect neutral colour for interiors, and it may well have found its way into your own home as part of a big trend towards minimalism. There is another option you could consider, though. It's in the shops, it's all over social media, bright colours, lots of stuff everywhere, maximalism. Well, just as you'd imagine, the You and Yours team is very much on trend, and our reporter Josie LeVay went to visit a fellow maximalist in Levenshulme in Manchester. The maximalist lives in a terraced house with an orange front door.
My name is Laura Dean. I'm an art teacher from Manchester, and welcome to my chaotic, colourful, maximalist home.
So can you give me a bit of a tour and show me around some of your favourite bits and things that you have?
Okay. So my favourite room is the front room. I moved into this house 7 years ago when I got divorced. My husband was quite a minimalist, so there was always a bit of a contrast between our styles. So when I got my own place, I just kind of emptied out into it, basically. The living room has a really big window at the front, and the sun shines through, and it sets just in front of my window. So I've got loads of plants in my window. I've got a lovely big sofa, which was my most extravagant buy when I moved in, and it's dead comfy, and it's covered in cushions. And I've got a lampshade that looks like a pair of old granny's knickers, which is why I loved it. I found it on Facebook Marketplace. And there's just loads of things in here that make me happy. Lots of mirrors to reflect light.
Yeah, there's not one, is there? There's, what, five?
Five mirrors. There wasn't another one, but it broke. There's not a lot of wall space, and I painted my front room. It's really dark blue, which my mum hates because she says she can't see anything. But it feels like a little cave kind of at the front of my house, and then the sun spills into it. So yeah, this is probably my favourite bit. And then the kitchen, when I moved into the house, it was really minimalist. It was empty, every wall was white, but I've just had the kitchen done up recently. Well, had new doors put on the cupboards, which are kind of like a tealy turquoise colour with bright orange handles.
I'm loving the orange fridge as well.
Yeah, the orange fridge. So when I moved in, I knew I wanted a green sofa and an orange fridge, and I couldn't really afford anything else, but that's what I saved up for. The orange fridge makes me really happy. But we've got an orange fridge, a green dishwasher, a yellow bin, pink tiles, bright yellow walls. I like colour. I love colour. The green, the pink, the yellow and the dark blue kind of run through a lot of the house, but it's all patched together. It's like a patchwork quilt. That's how I describe my house, I think.
Would you say this is naturally you then? You're not following any trends? This is just...
Yeah, no, so I was thinking about this before, and I was thinking back to my bedroom when I was a teenager, and it was exactly the same. It was multicoloured, and there was stuff all over the walls and piled up, and things that, like little knickknacks and curiosities and things that made me happy. So I just think it's always been there. But this has been my first real space as a grown-up where I can unleash.
I imagine it would be a right pain to move house.
I will be here till I die. Yeah, I think the people who sold me the house were really minimalist, and they came to pick their post up once, and when they saw what they'd done, I could see a little tear in their eye. I don't think they appreciated what I'd kind of done to their minimalist house.
Oh, they didn't like it?
I don't think so, no. But that's okay, not everyone does.
I love it. We are both in a maximalist design and decor Facebook group, which I probably joined about 5 years ago.
Same. Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's a good excuse to nosy other people's homes, but it's also a bit of validation, because I look at these people's houses and I think, oh, it's not just me, because I don't really know anyone with a house quite like mine.
And there's lots of people on that. I looked just now and there's 1.7 million members.
Oh wow. So yeah,
we're not alone.
No, thank God. My daughter's room, we did up a few years ago. She has a rainbow staircase up to the loft, which was a labour of love.
This is incredible.
Tester pots, that was.
As if she gets this as her bedroom.
Yeah, but you can see, the apple does not fall far from the tree with this one. So she's got plants hung and rainbow drawers, and she chose the lino on the floor, which is it's like a kind of map. There's rivers and roads and buildings all over it, so that's very busy. She's gone for a bit of an autumnal vibe at the moment.
Oh, does she change it up?
Yeah. So she bought herself some new bedding and she's got little pumpkin decorations. She likes to, she's really into her interiors and her fashion and her colours and stuff. So yeah.
I absolutely love it.
Just into it. I know, I'd quite like this bedroom one day. When she moves, when I kick her out, and this will be mine.
Will you keep the rainbow staircase?
Oh yeah, definitely. It took me about 4 weeks to paint it. I can only do alternate stairs and then I have to kind of let it dry and then come back to it. So that stays.
Laura Dean giving our reporter Josie LeVay a tour of her maximalist home. And we just had this from Bex Fisher from Home Shaped Interior Design. She says, as an interior designer, I've definitely noticed this shift to braver use of colour in homes. It brings joy and adds personality. In a world of uncertainty, making the home joyful is comforting and makes us feel safe. Well, let me bring in another interior designer, Sophie Robinson. She loves colour. You may have seen her on the telly. Just this year, she's launched a collection with the homeware store Dunelm. So Sophie, welcome. So tell me then, how would you describe this concept, maximalism?
I think Laura just put it in perfect words. What I heard Laura say over and over again was like, oh, this just makes me really happy. It's joyful decorating, isn't it? And it's so lovely to see, because I think for so many years the nation were gripped in beige, grey. And, you know, it's still around. It's still a popular way to decorate. But I've seen a few social shifts, I think, that have encouraged homeowners like Laura to really embrace what makes them emotionally, truly feel happy in their homes. And maybe one of them is the fact that, you know, we're not flipping property like we were in the noughties. You know, I remember Sarah Beanie's mantra was always like, do not put your personality into your home. Everything must be 50 shades of grey. And luckily, those times have very much gone, that whole property ladder kind of concept, and people aren't selling their houses as quickly. There's still an investment. I think us Brits still see our homes as a really big investment. And yet, if you're going to be staying in your home for, you know, like Laura, she says forever. But, you know, I always think at least 5, 6, 7 years, why not have it exactly how you want it?
I mean, the other thing is more people living alone. Laura was able to let rip with this when she separated from her partner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. The number one question I probably get asked by women, I mean, it's not to be totally gendered. It can work the other way around. There are lots of boys out there who are maximalists, but typically it's the husband reining in. Now, I'm not convinced that that's because they don't like maximalism. I think they are probably quite often a little bit more logical, and they might still, you know, I mean, I must admit that whole property boom lasted quite a long time, didn't it? It is really ingrained in people's psyche that they mustn't, you know, ruin their biggest asset by putting, God forbid, wallpaper up or something like that. So I think that there is still a hangover from that way of, you know, we've been indoctrinated to not put personality into our home. So I think there's a lot of men who are maybe more just got their eye on the bottom line, or they might think, oh my gosh, she's just gone out and bought an orange fridge and now she wants like a pink sofa, and what's that with rainbow stairs? I mean, this is all, I think they can feel like that this is a trend that's just going to change, and then they're going to want it all back to beige again. But what I would say on that is I don't see maximalism as it's a decorating style. A maximalism headline, lots of colour, lots of pattern, lots of different design motifs all dancing together. I don't really see it as a trend. I see it more like a lifestyle. And I think, you know, if the little hairs on the back of your neck sort of start prickling at the thought of having, rainbow stairs, I'm absolutely stealing that idea, then that really speaks to you. And I would always say, trust that feeling, trust that gut emotion. And the chances are, if you really develop your own sense of style and your own colour palette, you're not going to go off it, and you're not going to need to rip it out and change it. You're just going to want more and more of it over time.
But you're not going to turn your partner then in that case, are you? Well, not if they care about interiors. Some people don't mind, do they? They say, well, you go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And those are definitely the partners you want. I had one of those. I'm actually recently divorced, but I actually did win that battle before. But I know what Laura's talking about. The other thing I would say, if you are trying to get a partner on board with, say, more extravagant interior design schemes, is to bring them on the journey with you. Vision board it, mood board it, show examples, explain why you want these things so it doesn't just seem bonkers and erratic. And then Laura pointed out another really key point in her interview is don't be hung up about what other people think. Because that's another thing, apparently, that can really stop people expressing themselves in their homes, is this fear that other people are going to walk in and go, oh no, this is all a bit too much, isn't it?
Sophie Robinson, thank you for that. Now, do you have a favourite meal deal, a favourite main drink and snack? A lot of people do. A meal deal's just a promotion, a discount on a bundle of food, but it's one that's proved to be incredibly popular and enduring. Boots introduced the first meal deal 26 years ago. We asked some people on their lunch break in Manchester what their go-to meal deal is.
Probably say Tesco. I'll probably have like a feta cheese with tomato, mozzarella, pesto, and I'll have it with an orange juice and cheese and onion crisp.
I like the Tesco meal deal. It's £5, but they do the most amazing sushi. Yeah, so you get nice sushi, nice beans, and a nice drink, and it's £5.
Is it worth the £5? That's a lot, right?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I have a cafe, and I could not do that for £5. No, it's a really good deal.
So, do you have a favourite meal deal and a place to buy it from?
Favourite place is the Co-op, purely because the snacks, you can get like steak slices and stuff like that, more than just a pack of crisps. Sandwich I'm not forced, drink I'm not forced, but basically 2 mains and a drink from the Co-op.
So I'm quite basic, and I do like a Tesco meal deal or Waitrose meal deal. It's pretty much the same thing. I get my prawn mayo sandwich, Sensation sweet chili crisps, and it has to be a Coke Zero. And yeah, I think I do prefer Tesco though because it's cheaper. Waitrose is a bit spennies.
Tesco meal deal without a shadow of a doubt.
What do you get from Tesco then?
I normally get, eggs. It has to be eggs. And normally a Vimto drink and some kind of pasta or a sandwich.
Some people in Manchester talking about their favourite meal deals. Well, as I mentioned, the meal deal started in Boots. Most of the big supermarkets, Tesco certainly, were very quick to spot its potential and to offer the meal deal of their own. Although Asda has only just introduced its first proper fixed-price meal deal. That was in September. Well, now Greg's and Pret a Manger getting in on the action. Lee Kenny is the editor of Retail Gazette. Lee, why do you think that the meal deal has this enduring popularity? I mean, those people out shopping in their lunch break in Manchester, they feel passionately about it, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are advantages for both consumers and for retailers. For consumers, I think there's a real kind of value perception around the meal deal, particularly in this day and age with the cost of living crisis. The fact that they can go along and select a bundled price of often 3 items is it kind of chimes with the need to want a bargain. But there's also a real kind of convenience, particularly for people who are working, and the meal deal kind of fits into their busy lives, knowing that they can select a predictable lunch that actually does have quite a range of different items that they can then take to the park or they can take back to their desk and enjoy on their lunch hour.
How has what's on offer changed over time?
Yeah, massively. As you said, so the first meal deal was attributed to Boots back in October 99. I did some research. I can't actually see what the sandwiches were on offer back in 99. But over that time, it has changed immensely. And now we often see, as well as sandwiches, we see salads, we see sushi, we see poke bowls and the like. And in fact, Tesco now sells more sushi than it does sandwiches. So I think part of their enduring appeal is that they have changed to reflect consumers' tastes.
Asda's new meal deal is $3.74, and they all, if you look at the prices, tend to hover around that price. But the loyalty card can make a difference, can't it?
Yeah, that's right. So that's becoming increasingly a factor. That the membership of a loyalty scheme dictates price. Poundland offers their Grabber Bites meal deal for £3, which I understand is the cheapest available. At the other end of the spectrum, Waitrose is £5, but Tesco's premium meal deal without a club card is around £6. So there is a real variation in cost.
Do you think people shop around for them, or is it just a case of buying, somewhere that is near you when you're on your break from work or school?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. As some of the interviewees mentioned there, I think people do have a loyalty or a preference, but that might be dictated by which convenience stores are near to their school or to their work. But I think one of the advantages for retailers around meal deals is that it does help to promote consumer loyalty. So people will go in there because they stock their favourite sandwich, but probably whilst they're also in there, they might pick up something for tea, pick up some cat food, pick up some cereal for the next day. So for the retailers, yeah, it can be a really good way of kind of getting people through the door.
And do you think that is what the whole point of it is? They're not making money on it. As to saying you can save up to half of the individual prices on what's in its meal deal. They're making no money, they're just a way to get you through the door.
So they're actually reasonably profitable for the retailers as well. And what can happen is that the cost of the individual items, that sandwich, crisps or a drink, might be slightly inflated to insinuate that the cost of the bundle is actually a better deal than it is.
It was the first guest we had on today, Jenny in Birmingham, was saying about, those buy one, get one free on the junk food. I asked, would that affect you? It's banned from today. She said, no, because I never believe the original prices anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think the bundle does promote people buying more. You might just go in for a sandwich and actually, for a pound more, you could get a drink and some crisps as well. So before you bought 3 things rather than 1. For the retailers, though, these meal deals and the items within them tend to have a very high transactional value. So that's a real benefit. But it also means that they can shift very large volumes of quite high margin products, like drinks, for example. So they're able to kind of sell them in rates that they otherwise wouldn't do. And then obviously, as I mentioned, the other real kind of attractive thing for retailers is that it gets people through the door.
Why do you think Pret and Greggs are doing it?
I think for them, I was actually surprised that they weren't already doing. If you'd asked me a year ago, I would just assume that they were. I think that it's almost become a kind of cultural and consumer expectation that they would. And I think they're obviously seeing that the others are really benefiting from this and didn't want to be left behind.
Do you think it's a budgeting tool for people as well? That it caps the amount you'll spend at lunchtime?
Yeah, probably. I mean, in an ideal world, we'd probably all take sandwiches for lunch with us and make huge savings that way.
Do you do
in
that?
the absence of that, probably yes. Yeah, it is a way of kind of capping your spending slightly if you have the restraints and not go in there and then buy other things.
Do you do that yourself? Bring your own sandwiches in?
From time to time, I tend to take last night's leftovers in when I can. But no, I enjoy a meal deal. Yeah, I enjoy meal deals as much as the next person.
Peter Hardy in North Yorkshire just said, why not buy a sliced wholemeal loaf and make your own sandwiches at home? Take them to work in a biscuit tin or a plastic sandwich box. I replaced my sandwich box last year after 2 decades of use. Good. Well done, Peter. In Lee Kenny from the Retail Gazette. Thank you for that. Thank you. Buy now, pay later services let you split the cost of what you buy into 3 interest-free monthly instalments, and they have really taken off since the market leader Klarna moved into the UK a decade ago. The buy now, pay later users began at the start. They were teenagers buying fast fashion. The newer users seem to be older, more affluent shoppers. A report from UK Finance, the industry body for banking and financial services, has been looking into how we pay. Adrian Buckle is their head of research. Dr. Patsy Perry lectures in fashion marketing at Manchester Metropolitan University, and she has looked at how buy now, pay later has changed the way we buy clothes. Adrian Buckle, if I could start with you then. There are lots of players now, aren't there, in this buy now, pay later sector. Which are the services that most shoppers in the UK are using?
The most recognisable ones, I think you already mentioned Klarna, and there are also services such as ClearPay or PayPal Credit. But a lot of the major banking providers will now also provide this as an option to their customers when they buy something.
So you found in your latest report a big growth in the proportion of people in the UK who had used these services in the last year. Tell us about the people then who have recently started using them.
Yes, it's interesting. I think, as you said, originally the market was being led by younger people, but it's very much expanding into people of all ages. And we saw, for example, people 55 to 64 year age group, we increased from about 10% of people trying the service to over 1 in 5 people trying the service in 2024. And there's been similar increases across all age groups.
So what is their overall reach now?
Around 25% of people, so 1 in 4, had tried using Buy Now, Pay Later during 2024. It's not clear how frequently they were using it, but people are dipping their toe in the water and giving it a go.
Adrian, these services were first offered through online fashion retailers, and then they spread out gradually, didn't they, into household goods, events, tickets, travel. What are we using them for now?
It really is almost anything that you buy online. Often, I think people, as they are shopping online, I'm sure your listeners hear this themselves, they get to the online checkout, and it is now quite common to see one or other of these Buy Now, Pay Later providers offered as an option at the checkout. So as well as things such as clothes and so on, we're also thinking about digital media, electrical goods, and moving into, say, even things such as event tickets or travel.
But is fashion still the main thing that it's used for, the biggest category?
It still does lead the way, very much, partly because these are kind of often big ticket items or occasional purchases, but again, because it is the sector that helped Buy Now, Pay Later first get its foot into the UK market, and therefore those kind of businesses and those kind of retailers do have quite well-established relationships with the Buy Now, Pay Later providers.
Dr. Patsy Perry, take us back to the beginning then. Tell us what impact Klarna had on fashion sales when it began to take off a decade ago.
So these services really grew with online shopping in the pandemic, and they were presented as an alternative to credit cards for younger people, such as Gen Z, who wouldn't qualify or wouldn't have credit cards, and really, presented as an alternative payment form, not as a binding form of debt finance. And also these companies are doing their own marketing campaigns now, so you're not only seeing them at the point purchase in the shopping basket, but you might see online campaigns across social media, and they've been really beneficial for fashion retailers in terms of reducing cart abandonments, increasing average order value.
Abandonment, that is where you put it in your basket and you get to the end and think, I can't
feel guilty. You can't
afford it. So, but if you can break it into 3, suddenly you can afford it.
If you can break it into 3 and then make the payments, it's great. But there is evidence that some people are overestimating their economic capacity and then falling into debt, which can affect their credit rating for things like mortgages and so on. Or they can get into loan cycles of having to take out, other forms of credit to pay off the Buy Now, Pay Later. So it's brilliant if you can, manage your repayments. But if you kind of forget about those and think, it doesn't feel like you're spending £100 on fast fashion. It just feels like you're spending £25 a week. But that can mount up and also entice excessive spending, overconsumption, and normalising credit for people that may be a little bit vulnerable.
Patsy, do you think it overstates it to say that it really fueled the rise of fast fashion, or do you think that would have happened anyway?
I think it would have happened anyway, but it has contributed to that because it's enabled more people to buy more stuff. So it's really helped those companies. But as we say, you can now see it for luxury retailers.
I wanted to move on to that. Older, more affluent people using it. So you've seen now this higher end fashion companies rushing to embrace it.
Yeah, it's across the board now, really, which can be good. It can encourage people to consider more aspirational purchases in terms of buying fewer, better things, or looking at more sustainable brands that may be more expensive than fast fashion brands. But if they can split the payment, they could try out more sustainable forms of clothing that's going to be more durable and last longer than fast fashion.
Adrian Buckle, the amount spent using these Buy Now, Pay Later services also rose. I mean, not by a massive amount, by 4%, but ahead of inflation last year. I think inflation was running at 2.7, something like that. So is that surprising in a continued cost of living squeeze? I suppose it means we're spending a little bit more on clothes.
Possibly. I think one thing that's reflecting is actually that use of Buy Now, Pay Later is actually higher amongst people the higher their income is.
Of course.
When we're looking at people earning over £50,000 a year, about 1 in 3 of them are using it. So they have greater potential to spend as well. So it's a mixed thing that we're seeing there.
And the regulations that are applied to these companies are going to change soon, aren't they, to address some of the anxieties that Patsy Perry mentioned, that people will be taking on more debt than they can afford and so on. Tell us what's going to be different with them.
Yes, there are new regulations coming into the market expected in 2026, and that's going to include things such as mandatory affordability checks, which is designed to make sure that when people are taking on these short-term agreements, which is essentially what this is, that their affordability, their ability to make those payments is being checked, and to ensure that consumers aren't being enticed into taking on debt that they can't afford.
Now, they used to say, the companies, that the searches they did, the credit searches, were soft searches. They didn't remain on your credit record, so they didn't damage your credit rating. And they also used to argue that if you couldn't pay, it didn't damage your credit rating either. They wouldn't let you lend again, but they said it didn't damage your ability to borrow in the future. Will that remain the same?
It's not clear yet exactly how the regulations are going to work from that aspect, but you're right. At the moment, those things don't tend to hit credit ratings because they're not done through credit reference agencies. Also, we found in our research that last year only 5% of people had incurred fees through late payment of some of their Buy Now, Pay Later.
Well, that's what Klarna has always argued, haven't they? That Klarna buys the debt, the companies that sell the stuff buy the service, and that if you can pay in the 3 monthly instalments, you have saved yourself paying any interest, and the very few people default. So that's right, your research suggests.
I mean, that's certainly that is the selling point for the service. And as you say, if it works and if consumers are able to use it sensibly, then that's absolutely what the service delivers. That's what the FCA's new regulations are intending to ensure, that this is the way that it actually does work, and that it does bring those benefits without creating unintended consequences.
Patsy Perry, you can use Klarna now on resale sites, eBay, Vinted. Do you welcome that?
Yes, it's really good in terms of getting people to consider, pre-loved clothing, that idea of the circular economy, keeping existing things in use for longer rather than just buying loads of new stuff. And if they get used to seeing those services on other websites, it's great that they can also find them on places like eBay and Vinted. But then ultimately, we need to keep wearing what we've already got, restyle it rather than buying new stuff wherever it comes from.
Dr. Patsy Perry from Manchester Metropolitan University and Adrian Buckle, Head of Research at UK Finance. Thank you for coming on. Two energy companies, one based in Pembrokeshire and the other in Durham, have been fined between them £500,000 for making automated marketing calls. Now, these calls used recordings of actors reading scripted lines, and they were activated by agents based abroad. Millions of these calls were made, generated by computer software. Now, many of them went to vulnerable people who had registered to bar cold callers. The regulator of the Information Commissioner's Office fined the companies after hundreds of people complained. Andy Curry is head of investigations at the Information Commissioner's Office, and he can tell us a bit more about this. Welcome to you and yours. Would you start then by telling us about these two companies and what they were trying to sell? Because the companies were linked, weren't they?
Yes, they were, and thanks for welcoming me to the show. The companies were linked, and we find them after investigations into previous companies that were run by the same people. So we were dealing with a network of individuals who planned to do this. So these companies were basically pushing fiberglass insulation, solar panels, and that type of energy-related product, and they were bombarding members of the public. And in particular, as you've referenced, vulnerable people, older people, with automated calls.
Now, you classified these calls as what you call robo or avatar calls. How are they different from the kind of cold calling, the kind of marketing calling that is still allowed in the UK?
Yes, well, automated calls are lawful as long as you get a person's prior permission before you make the call to them. So in this case, neither company could demonstrate any permission from anybody they called, and they made around 12 million calls, in some cases repeated calls to people. Now, the software they used is a relatively new development, and this transmits pre-recorded greetings, statements and questions during a call to appear like the recipient is talking to a real person. Fairly sort of generic, so they don't identify themselves in the calls, which again is against the law, and featured in the penalty notice that we issued to both of them.
Well, you provided us with an example of one of these calls, so let's play it. Here it is.
Hello? I'm one of the energy advisors covering the area. Now, we're actively contacting homeowners there because apparently a lot still got fiberglass insulation in the loft space, and it's recently been classed irritant by the British Lung Foundation, so a couple of services have opened up to help. Before I go on and explain all the details, is it fair to say you've got fiberglass firstly, or maybe one of the derivatives like rock wool in the attic, do you know?
It is actually fiberglass.
How long ago did you have the inspection? Was it within the last 18 months?
I've only been in the property since March last year, so I'm not really sure.
And you're the homeowner?
Yes, I am, yeah.
So, would you like to take advantage of the free inspection to make sure your insulation is safe and working well?
Yes, please, yeah.
Right, so that they can go have a head start. Tell me about the property. What is it? Is it like a terrace or a bungalow?
It's a townhouse, a 3-storey townhouse.
Okay, how many bedrooms do you have?
3.
Right, got to put you in an age bracket. 45 to 79, will that do you?
Yeah.
Just to recap then, so we have to do a loft inspection for you. It doesn't take them very long, as I said. If you allow an hour of your time and don't make too much tea, you'll be fine.
Well, it's so normal, isn't it? It sounds just totally like a person. You say that they were actors, they're good actors, all those ums and ahs.
Yes.
If you get one of these calls, Andy, what are the signs that the person on the line isn't a real person, they're just a recording?
There will be slightly out of context responses to the questions that you might ask them. The calls are completely silent in the background. Most people have had calls from normal call centres and they can hear a bit of hubbub. And then there are might be awkward pauses as the software chooses the right response to you. So those are the things to look out for. But in many cases, in the complaints that were made to us, some people just didn't lock that these calls were automated and speaking to a piece of software. In others, people were able to make out that something a bit off about them, and therefore they were speaking to a computer.
So the computer is responding in a way. I imagine that it would just be one tape recording that's just fired off, but no, it's actually altering the response that you get from the actor depending on what you say. It's very clever, isn't it?
It is, yes. And we're seeing a growth of these calls using this type of software, and it's not unlawful to use this software. You can make an automated marketing call to people, but you have to get people's permission to do so before you make those calls. And these companies didn't do that.
So if you do get one of these calls, you realise it's automated, you didn't give your permission for it to come, you can complain, can't you? You can complain to you at the Information Commissioner's Office. Some of the people who complained to you, and they also complained to the Telephone Preference Service. That is the UK's official do not call register for landline and mobile numbers. And often people register elderly relatives, don't they, or people they know are ill or are losing mental capacity because they don't want them to be preyed on in this way. Did you get calls, complaints from people like that?
We did, and one in particular sticks out for me, where there were carers of elderly parents who were over 95 years of age, and they were in failing health, and they had to answer the phone. There is no choice about it. It could be the hospital or the GP or something like that. And typically, hospitals and GPs withhold their numbers, like in this case with these companies. So the stress of a withheld call that might be related to their relatives, their parents, and that sort of thing hits hard, I think.
So apart from registering with this telephone preference service and complaining, is there anything else you can do?
Yes, well, we always say, don't give out your personal information to people who are calling you out of the blue. Put the phone down on the caller. You don't owe them your time. Do your own research if you need a product or a service, but don't respond to people who are calling you. As you've said, Winifred, register with the telephone preference service. It's free. You can register as many landline or mobile numbers as you like, including for your relatives. And any unwanted calls, please tell the ICO so that we can take action as we have done in this case.
They were firing these calls off from abroad. Was that an attempt to get around the law?
Yes, it was. As you may know, we executed search warrants the premises linked to these companies, and we recovered devices where there were WhatsApp conversations between the directors speaking about how if they base these sort of call centres overseas, it will prevent the ICO from tracing them. Well, unfortunately, they were wrong.
Just give us the name of the companies then. Not that they say their name in the recordings, but what are these company names?
So the two companies who we find were Green Spark Energy and Home Improvement Marketing.
And are you looking now into what happened when they managed to sell these services to people, the spray foam or the solar panels? Briefly, we haven't got very long.
No, we do liaise with local trading standards in the case of these sort of products, yes. Yep.
OK, so it is being investigated. Andy Curry, Head of Investigations at the Information Commissioner's Office. Thank you for that. That is all from us for today. Lots of messages from you, lots about the cost of living. I'll just read you this from Nick, who says he's a tenant farmer. We never turn our heating on before December. We just wear extra jumpers. We've never gone on holiday because we can't afford to. We would love to take our children away. Just impossible for us right now. That's it from us for today. On tomorrow's programme, Greg Foote is going to be here with an edition of Sliced Bread. And this week, he's looking into the